So far, we've been using the scanner class to read input from the standard input system.in. This is the console that we get here in NetBeans when we run the Java programs. And you should be familiar with the useful scanner methods that we've been using. Like, for example, if you want to read a double, a floating point number, you use the method next double. But what if we want to read from a different source of input? Let's say we want to read from a file. In that case, we don't have to make a lot of changes. The only thing we need to change is the source of the input here. So instead of initializing the scanner with system.in, we need to initialize it with a different source of input. And to read from a file, there is another predefined class called FileReader. Right? So FileReader is a class in Java. We will need to import it, of course. And you should know by now how to create an object or an instance of that class. So let's give it a name, for example, fr equals new FileReader, and then we have to initialize it somehow. In the case of a FileReader, we have to give it a string, and that string has to be the path to a file in our computer. Okay, the file that you specify here could be anywhere in your computer. But to make things simpler, I'm going to show you how to add a text file to your Java project. So here I have the project that I'm working on. When I created this Java project, I called it Chapter 3. So on the name of the project, you can right-click and add a new empty file. If you don't see empty file here, then go to Other, and then here in the categories, Other, and then find empty file. And I'll call it input.txt. Okay, so I'm creating an empty text file. Okay, so this is a file that I can edit, so I can type something here, for example, hello world. Okay, and then you can just save the file. Okay, so this file will be available in that project directory. So you find here where the project is, or you can go to properties, and this will show you the path to your project. And then if you open that folder, see the file is there in my project folder. And if I open it, it's a text file that has these words that I just added, and you can also edit it from here. Okay, so it's just a file in our computer. Now in the program, I can specify here the name of the file, which is input.txt. Now because I put the file in the same project directory, I don't need to specify anything else. But if it was something somewhere else, like in my documents folder or something, then I would need to specify the full path. And you can find the path to any file if you look up its properties. So in Mac OS, you can go to Get Info. In Windows, there will be properties. So there you will find the path to that file, like here. And if you copy that path and paste it before the name of the file, see, that's the path to that file. This allows the program to find that file. So, but again, because it is in the same project, now I don't need to specify the path. I can just specify the name of the file. Okay, so of course I need to import the FileReader. So I will hit an import. So FileReader is part of the IO package. So java.io.filereader. And I'm still getting an error here. We need to do one more thing. So the way we can handle that is by adding a throw clause, right? So if I click on this, see what happens. I got this clause was added, throws file not found exception. Okay, now I have no errors in my code. So I actually did not handle that error, but I just added that statement which says that the main method could possibly throw this type of exception, file not found exception. Right? For example, let's say here I put the wrong name for the input file, input2.txt. This is not a compilation error. See, I don't have any errors in my programs. But if I run it, see, I got this exception, file not found exception, because input2.txt, this file does not exist. No such file or directory. Okay, so if we change the file name to input.txt, this will not give us a file not found exception. But see, here we just added this object, FileReader, but we did not change anything in our scanner. Now, if we want the scanner to read from this file, instead of system.n, we have to give it that FileReader object. So now the scanner is associated with the file, and it will read from the file instead of the standard input. But as you know, that file, I just added this hello world statement, so it can read, we can use next or next line. If we have next double as the first statement, of course, I expect this will give me an error, right? So let me run this. See, I got an error, a type of exception that's called input mismatch exception, because I'm trying to read a double, but the input is actually a word, not a double, okay? So let's remove this. Let's read the words next, and then I'll use next again. And then I'll output the second word that I read, S2. Okay, now I run this. See, the output is world. So now the scanner worked successfully. It's associated with the file. S console.next read the first word, and S2 console.next read the second word, which is world, right? And that's what I got as an output. If I output S1, right? If I output both S and S2, the output is hello world. Okay, so from here, you know, the way that you use that scanner is exactly the same way that you're used to when you use system.in. The methods that you call have to match the types of variables in that input stream, right? So here, okay, I will keep this as the first input. Let me add a word there, like, okay, 12. Let's add 1.5. Let's add another word there, like, okay. And of course, don't forget to save the changes, right? I made changes, so I'm gonna save. Okay, so now I have a line, and then I have an integer, floating point number, and another word. So here, instead of reading these as two separate words, I'm gonna read it as next line. Okay. And then I'm gonna read the next number, so it has to be of type int. Let me call that x equals console dot next int. And then let me read the next number, which is a floating point number. So y equals console dot next double. And then we have one more word, so we could either use next or next line. I'm gonna use next, so string is 2 equals console.next. Okay, now let me output these. Okay, so I'm outputting those variables as first line is s, x is x, y is y, last word is, okay? And this is my output. So again, there is really nothing new here. We're using the scanner the way we are used to. But now we have all the input in a file. The new thing here is how to create a file reader, which is like this. And you have to specify where your text file is. Okay, and I showed you how to create a file in your project. And then in the scanner, when you initialize it, instead of system.n, you specify the file reader. Actually, instead of creating the object in a separate line, that statement of creating the object, that whole thing, you can put it as an argument here, which is exactly the same. So here I'm creating a file reader object and associating it with this file input.txt, and that file reader object is the argument for the scanner.